Great. Well, welcome and hello and Tanshi to all our pop listeners. We are so happy to have another episode of Presenting Our Presence. And Presenting Our Presence, as you know, is about amplifying, uplifting, and highlighting the beautiful and important contributions of Indigenous people at the University of Alberta. So we're glad to be with you again with myself, Dr. Janet Gaudet, as a co-host with Dr. Florence Glanfield. And we have a special day today and a special guest who is with us also, and it is Janet Delorme. And Janet, I am so honored and we're so privileged that you are joining with us today, having this conversation. And to meet you, I was so grateful to meet you at one of the visiting teas with Florence, and then to see you in person at Faculty of Native Studies last week. And, you know, we have seen each other. I've seen you there at Faculty of Native Studies, but I feel like through the teas, we were able to oh, yes, we know one another. And so these pops are about having kind of more visiting, intimate conversations and visit with one another. So welcome to Presenting Our Presence. And, you know, I invite you to introduce yourself in a way that's meaningful to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Florence, for having me. It's a surprise, even though it's virtual, but we were able to meet in person and going forward after, kind of returning back to normal through the pandemic. So yes, my name is Janet Delorme. I work with the Faculty of Native Studies with the University of Alberta. Been there since 2018. I actually worked with the University of Alberta, probably started in 1998, and been a public servant throughout, back and forth, and full circle coming back to the University of Alberta. So when people ask me, being Indigenous, where are you from? Or, I kind of always think of, okay, First Nation. So registered through the blood tribe from my mom. And then kind of think about my late dad. And I think, well, because his father signed off his treaty rights, then he's Métis, but then I kind of feel, I'm only talking about my mom, but I'd like to talk about my dad too. So Blackfoot and Métis on both. So yeah, that's where I'm from the blood tribe. And thank you for having me today.
Well, thanks for joining us. And it's so beautiful how when we think about how we introduce ourselves and more acknowledging, it's about the different relations that we have. And so my relations, I often introduce myself within my mom's line of Métis women. I'm the 5th generation of Métis women along that South Saskatchewan River. And I come into relation with my French side because my father is French coming from out east. And so I've just, as we resituate ourselves and position ourselves, I grow along as well as learning how others, speak to where they come from and who they belong to, in that sense of belonging. And it's so important, right? It's so important when we're in the classrooms or in our research. And I'm sure for you at Faculty of Native Studies, how you positions yourself or how you identify and see the world I must imagine informs and influences the way in which you work there, or how even all the students that you're meeting that come from different backgrounds as well. Can you tell us walk us through a little bit of a day because someone who sits at the front entry of any doorway for me holds a lot of power. It's like the first person we see represents a lot, and it's quite meaningful.
Yes. I've been told that many times. People are like, when we're, meeting new people or faces and stuff like that and getting introduced, and a lot of people say, well, this is the face of Native Studies. And, it takes me back, and and I feel proud, and that acknowledgement really, puts me kind of like on a high pedestal. And I kind of like think, little me, but then I'm like, in essence, yes, and to introduce people or to meet people when they walk in the door, my energy and just, the approach is just like family. welcome to the family. When you walk in the door, I open arms and get to know them, and I don't see, I can't say I don't see race, but I'm just like anybody that comes through the door, I'm automatically, drawn to them and, inquisitive, kind of like, who are you? And then, they kind of open up the door and be like, oh, this is such a, because we work in Pembina Hall and the building itself is like over 100 years old. So a lot of people are just, overwhelmed with the structure and the building itself and, just the, not the landscape, but the foundation itself, like the just everything about the building. So I just talk to them about, kind of like get them away from the landscape of the building and kind of like, okay, well, Native studies, and talk about the programs and what we are here for and, the programs that we offer to not only just Indigenous people, like non-Indigenous people and international students, right? So, and, they get a little bit kind of taken back and they think, oh, well, automatically they think Native studies is just for Native people, but it's not, or well, I should say Indigenous people, but it's not. We're, we have, a lot of micro-credential courses that, offer to around the world. So it's very enlightening to, kind of get that talk out there for, to introduce Native studies to the world. So that's what I'm at. And I just kind of open mind, open heart, and welcome everybody with a smile when you walk in the door. So.
That sense of welcoming. I know I always feel welcome when even just how the entry is set and how that welcoming space and how it's so important.
Yes.
Right? How it's so important to that place of belonging and connection. And I love when we were chatting to think about kind of unsettling that myth that somehow Native studies is for only Native people. And it was like, oh yes, when dispelling that myth that you're seeing and seeing students that come from very many different backgrounds or walks of life who are actually taking degrees or undergraduate degrees in Native studies at the University of Alberta.
Yes. And a lot of the students too, they don't know about like we have, with AILS or education or physical education or even science, right? Like that 4-year degree with education. And a lot of them, they're just like, I didn't know this until like my second year. And it's like, oh, but they're kind of building up. But again, first year students, I know they find that, they're on a path of their major. And then sometimes they don't even know until their second year, right? So that's when they come back and they're like, okay, well, I'm so excited to take, and kind of go a different direction, right? So it's always good to see the students grow, throughout the whole 4 years or even 6 years sometimes, right? So
right. Mm-hmm. And because you're situated right at the front, I would, it's kind of like you get to see everything that goes on. Exactly. What would you say is like the students, like what they need for them to feel successful there or feel like they belong in that place and they have a right to be there at the University of Alberta and getting their degrees or their masters? Mm-hmm. So what you get to experience at that front desk.
It's just the talk, like, how, especially the first year and they, like the courses that they take, right? The first year, like the 100 level, and then getting to know the professors, the instructors and how they relate to like, oh, that's like my auntie, like, the way it's just such a close-knit community, right? Like not community, but a family dwelling that they, feel, I guess, sense of not I can't say security, but it's just family, right? Because then they go and they know, okay, this could be, like, okay, there's like other students that have, children or, something like that, or, or the weekend that, sometimes it was, they didn't have a good weekend. And then come Monday, it's like, oh, and they're kind of stressing, there's 10 other people that had the, the same, kind of thing. Right. So, it's not like they can, just kind of knowing that, on a personal level that, I hate to say that we're the same, but there's similarities that, just in regards to, especially with Indigenous families, like, sometimes like, oh, my childcare or, like stuff like that. Some things kind of go a little bit array and stuff like that. But, they just come and they can just be like, we talk to the professor and they'll be like, oh, this happened. And you know what? We understand, so it's really, that sense of family, belonging. I always hear that, and it's just like, and then now coming back after the pandemic, like it's been 2 years, I don't even know the first year students, right? They come and they'll be like, okay, but I'd always see them like on like virtual and stuff like that. And, I see their names and I'm like, okay, now I can put a face behind the name. So hopefully in fall or, fall 2022, when everybody comes back, that we can open up and have our tea and Bannex and get that one-on-one, get to know the students and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, the breaking of the Bannock.
Exactly.
Well, that's, thank you for sharing that. And it seems like it's a little thing, but it's so significant, the creation of that feeling like family, like the aunties and the grandpa and that kind of kinship
that's it.
Yeah. And enacting that within that space.
Mm-hmm.
And, we can think about also that space of what we enact at the University of Alberta. And I know you and I were chatting in terms of what we also bring in so many different ways, right? That we're passionate about and that are meaningful to us. And like you said, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's meaningful to you, or you like that understanding element, and then we create this movement almost within those spaces. And I know that you were sharing something that you were deeply passionate about, as many are, right? But for you particularly, at the Congress, which Florence and we were talking about, we'd had no idea, right, Florence, that this was occurring at the Congress, this artistic display, right? And that you were part of us. Could you share with us what that was like and what your contribution was at the Congress of 2021?
Yes. So a few of us got approached to be a part of the Congress in 2021. It was held virtual by the University of Alberta in May 2021. The theme for Congress 2021 was Northern Relations. The concept of my creation was to represent MMIW. Depending on what part of Canada, the title could be like missing, murdered Indigenous women, girls, boys, men, two-spirited, and all other genders. So at that point, the theme and the concept of what I was kind of doing, because I had a beaded piece as well, and I was kind of, because the Blackfoot people were starred people, so I was kind of going towards beading astrological, not signs, but grandfather sun, grandmother moon, the northern lights, Mother Earth. So I was kind of going on that, and then I kind of beaded, and that took a lot of time. So I was like, okay, well. But still in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, well, MMIW represents a lot of, especially being Indigenous women. And just in regards to my family, my brother was killed when I was young. I was a teenager. So it was back in 1986. There was no justice for my brother. So at that time, I thought, okay, growing up, it was very important, impacted my life. So. And I thought, at the time, the justice system failed my family. So, but again, not to get deep into politics or anything like that. I just kind of thought, okay, well, this is something that, a little unjust for Indigenous people, right? So I thought, okay, at the time, it kind of stuck with me, and then kind of through working. I was in a lot of, again, like I said, I was a public servant, throughout my life, and the areas that I worked were like non-Indigenous corporate. So kind of had to put that, on the back to be like, okay, well, this is a part of me, but in essence, it was like, okay, I just got to carry on and, not think about it, until I came back to university and, kind of, got more, there was more awareness of, MMIW, and then my nation down south, they were put in like advocacy, and they were searching for family members that were affected by MMIW. And I seen them on Facebook, so I reached out to them and I asked them, like, what is this about, right? So, and they said, oh, we're kind of putting a community project together, and looking for the members of the family that were involved or impacted against MMIW. So I thought, okay, well, my brother, and I explained to them that, my brother was murdered and there was no justice. And they said, okay, well, you guys are members, so you would be a part of that. So, because I was kind of like, well, it was MMIW, and I thought, well, he's, men, so I thought, am I, a part of that? Or like, because we're kind of like going on that title, of course, so, and then I said, well, I know a couple other family members, I'll reach out to them, because it was only about 30 of us from my tribe, and we're over 10,000 members. So I was like, there has to be, because we're really affected, like Indigenous people, and a lot of the crimes go, untold, or, on the back burner, stuff like that. So they did another call out, and they finally said, okay, and I've been involved with them for almost 2 years. So right now they had one of the Blackfoot artists build 4 billboards out of because of the committee. We'd meet every 2 weeks and talk about the stories, and the artist himself would get creative vision of what our stories were entitled or entailed in regards to all the stories of our loved ones. So he was able to create 4 billboards, which would go from north, south, east, or northeast, southwest, connect the 4 directions, and kind of hit the major highways. So if you're ever going down south, you'll be able to see some of the billboards that come in or go towards like Standoff and Lethbridge. So just in regards to that, and then every year, just in anything that has to do with MMIW, like May 5th, or in September, they have other memorial things with the city. So we get together and we kind of do a consultation in regards to advocacy to see what kind of ideas or what projects that we can, take part in, right? So, because the city of Lethbridge wanted to do the city hall, they were going to do a PowerPoint presentation on the wall. So at that time, but again, I was, because I wasn't there, it's kind of hard to do it because I live in Edmonton and it's hard to be a part of it, and you had to attend and stuff. So at that point, I just said, okay, well, I give the information with my brother and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I couldn't attend. So, and then May 5th, they had in Standoff, where they usually have their Kainai days, their powwow. They had a drive-through where they had all the red dresses and ribbon dresses and ribbon shirts for the men and shawls and stuff for the women. So, and they kind of had the drive-through and had a feast and sacred fire and stuff like that. So it was really nice to see that and honor the families and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's it's a big part in being able to be a part of that is a healing process too, right? To talk about it, because I used to be able to like even before, like where I worked, it was always put aside, right? And now that I'm in I can't say a safe space, but like other my coworkers and other people that I know have been affected by MMIW, right? Or either know a loved one or or a friend or a kin or relative that been affected by that. So it's very meaningful to me that, like the information is getting out there and people are aware, right, of what's happening to, Indigenous people. So, but the ribbon dress itself, because when I was making it, I had asked my mom, right, about it, because like just being in Edmonton and away from, Treaty 7 area, kind of like see a lot of ribbon skirts and, ribbon shirts and not a lot of ribbon dresses, right? So, my mom used to talk about, growing up, and her mom would make, clothes, obviously, right? So, back in the days, so we can just go shop at Walmart or, stuff like that, right? So, yeah, so she told me about the ribbon dress and how it was created down south. It was actually not Blackfoot. It was more, I think she said, the Navajo Nation. It was a little bit more, more south. Sorry, but like in Montana area, but a little bit more southern than that. But they used to have, it was made out of like wool and then elk teeth. So that would be, and the ribbons. So, but then of course, that was getting expensive to, like to hunt, and, they were kind of like going distinct and stuff like that. So they replaced it by the ribbon, right? So, but first it used to be different like fringes and stuff, and then kind of like embroidered, right? And then they started to do with the silk ribbon. So that's how, so.
Well, it's the adapting, right? So it's the beauty of how the women would sew and adapt to what was accessible and available, but always with that exquisite beauty. It is a beautiful red dress. I'm just looking at it to my right here on my computer, and thank you for sharing the process of it, and also for the courage to put it on display. Right? Because when we place those things that are passionate and are inspired and we hold dear and that are also part of our healing, and put them on display that you did at the Congress, that requires, I don't know, that's just what's coming to me about what that takes from a certain strength from within to be able to do that, because that's form of justice almost as well. That's a form of advocacy. That's education. That's resistance, and that's love, right? That's love. Florence. Yeah, me too. Florence, we're getting weepy here. Do you have any wonders or any?
Yeah, I'm listening, and it's so beautiful and profound, Janet. Thank you for sharing that. And I too, Cindy, as Janet, you were talking about it, I was looking at that beautiful dress that's still online. You can see it. And for the pop listeners, we'll make sure that there's a link so that each of you too can look at the beautiful dress. And a piece of the wording in the statement, and it takes me back to your comment, Cindy, is the heart, and how you chose to have hearts, and how you chose the red and the black ribbon. Beautiful, Janet. And could you talk just a little bit more about the hearts that you placed on the dress? Because that is the courage as well, and resistance. So I'll ask you to just do that. Thank you.
Sure. Again, not to take anything away from the MMIW, but they have the handprint, right, over the mouth, and so I was thinking about that. Then to me, not to take anything away from that. Healing is to talk, to have that voice, have the courage, tell the truth. So I just kind of felt that to use the handprint was, I didn't want to use that. And for me. Again, no disrespect or anything like that. I just want to kind of go towards the heart and kind of like, okay, and think about this was my loved one, and just in respect to not only my brother, I had other family members and, friends, and, my kids is their friends, and they're a lot of people are affected by that, right? And I think about the heart in general, that, kind of like Mother Earth too, right? Is a heart of just the soul and the entity of just love and creation, right? So, and I think the heart for me, when I put that on the dress, because I was really thinking, I was like, okay, well, let me do the handprint and, have a bunch of prints all over it. But then I was like, you know what? I need this to heal. And when I was sewing it, and I pray, and, I had good thoughts, and, overall, even that, thinking about my brother, and, and the friends that I lost, and the ones that are still missing, right, and they haven't been found. I was like, thinking, it did make me sad, right? And I try to overcome that. And, and when I see a heart, it just makes me smile, and I feel a sense of just, togetherness, and, everything's going to be okay, So, and I just focused on that heart. And then, with the black ribbon itself, thought of the mourning, the loss, the tragedy, of just, death or missing or murdered. And then the red itself of, impact of women, strength, power, even blood, right? So, and I just kind of thought about, that, and the two of those together. And I was like, out of kind of like a yin and yang, or negative, positive, it's connected to this heart, and, kind of feel, a bond of, yes, there's sadness and, tragedy, but, there's light and love out of it too, because I feel, even though this happened in my family, it brought me some courage to talk about it, and to build, and I don't like to say resilience, because every day I fight to just get up and, try to like carry on, and be like, okay, if I'm going to drive, am I going to, be, forced to, or not forced, but, just, attacked or anything like that, because an Indigenous woman, so I'm just like, it's kind of scary, but, overall I think about just to be strong, and, and I know my ancestors and my brother, they're watching over me, and that's why I like, anytime I pray and give anything to the Creator, I always put my hand on my heart, and I thank you, and I feel it in that heartbeat, and I just said, okay, yes, I'm alive, and thank you, and I'm blessed for another day. So that's where the heart comes from. So thank you for asking.
Janet, thank you. The teaching was so powerful, how the heart holds all of that for you, but for others as well. I'm so appreciative of that. And I know that we're coming close to our end of our time together. It's been a gift to come to know you. And, we had met before the pandemic, but online now during the pandemic. So I just invite you to share whatever final words you would like to say. We are grateful for you, for all of the ways in which you contribute to the University of Alberta, how you help build a sense of belonging for students, staff, and faculty, and all who enter the building of the Faculty of Native Studies. So I invite you to share whatever final words you would like to say now. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, Cindy and Florence. You pretty much said it all right there, Florence. That sense of belonging. A lot of people that come to university, especially first year, you could just see they're nervous, and they come with their parents or their family, and as soon as they walk in, I could just sense that kind of nervous energy, and I try to shake it off of them, right, and give them that sense of belonging and love and affection, and everything's going to be all right. So kind of, I think of that Bob Marley song, everything's going to be all right. So I kind of carry that with me all the time in the back of my head. Sometimes when we go through our trials or tribulations, or having a good day or a bad day, I just think about that song, in the back of my head, it's on repeat. So I just want to thank you guys for this. And as we, have our virtual teas, Florence, you have made me very strong. So I want to, I'm blessed to be a part of it. Thank you so much.